9 months ago, I made a video called Fortnite Battle Royale is Dying. I went over some of the major issues the game has been experiencing and highlighted some of the huge player count drops that we were seeing all of last year. It has been some time since that video. We've gone through a few seasons and even entered a new chapter. And we all thought that Chapter 7 was going to stop the bleeding. However, the first 2 seasons of Chapter 7 saw even lower player counts than we did in Chapter 6. But one thing I mentioned in that video, as well as some other videos I uploaded over the past year, is that Fortnite doesn't just recover with one good season. It requires multiple seasons in a row to turn things back around. That's why when we think about the prime times of Fortnite, it's always in batches of 2 to 4 seasons. A great example is Chapter 2, Season 2, 3, and 4. From the Midas season to the Flood and then the Marvel season, we had a prime time in Fortnite. And while it might be a little too soon to call it, I firmly believe that this second half of 2026 is going to be another prime for Fortnite. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why. First, we need to go over this image right here. Someone showed the average player count of all the Fortnite seasons since the player counts went public. You can see that back in Chapter 4, Season 3, we had an average player count of 1.2 million. Chapter 4, Season 4 bumped up to 1.7 million, and this was a fantastic season, so that's no surprise. Fortnite OG came in strong the first time with 2.8 million, and it carried that momentum into Chapter 5. However, we saw a low in Chapter 5 when the Wrecked season came out. And at the time, I remember thinking that the player count was so extremely low during the Wrecked season. But if you fast forward to Chapter 7, Season 2, you'll see the average player count has dropped down to 794,000 in the most recent season. This is the first time the average player count has dropped under a million. So you might be thinking, doesn't this mean the game is actually dying? The problem with just looking at these numbers at face value is you are missing some extremely important context. Let me show you a different perspective. What made Fortnite the game that it is has always been Battle Royale. Yes, there have been LTMs, creative modes, and now UEFN, but at its core, the success of Fortnite always leads with Battle Royale. And while Fortnite hopes to have a future where the game becomes more and more of a platform and there are creative maps with millions of players, it is not at that point yet. So the strategy of putting less effort into Battle Royale and focusing on all of these other new modes and creative experiences didn't really pan out the way Epic wanted it to in 2025. Because when Battle Royale suffers, the entire ecosystem does as well. The game cannot stand on its own without the Battle Royale experience being strong. This was a huge point I was making in my video, saying that Fortnite needs to focus on the Battle Royale experience, and if it's doing well, everything else will rise as well. And that is what the creative director Ted Timmons said at the beginning of Chapter 7, that they're going to be putting a huge focus on the Battle Royale experience. And it didn't hit initially, but now with this most recent season, Chapter 7, Season 3, we are finally seeing it come to life. So this chart right here shows the average player count of build mode Battle Royale over the past year. And as you can see with Chapter 7, Season 3 coming out, there is a huge jump in the amount of players playing Battle Royale. The same goes for Zero build as well. And actually, the way Fortnite is now tracking these is they have them all combined into one mode, but they didn't start doing this until April. So it's kind of hard to see them both combined on a 1 year long or longer chart. But as you can see, with the release of the new season, we are seeing numbers comparable back to November 2025, when a lot of people were playing Battle Royale during the Simpsons season. And it dwarfs any of the other times that people were playing the Battle Royale genre besides Fortnite OG and Remix 2. And remember what I said, things take time to turn around. It's not going to happen in just one update. It takes multiple good updates and multiple good seasons. That's exactly why when the season first came out, Battle Royale peaked at 792,000 players. But a full week later, it peaked at over 900,000 players, which is not the usual. Usually Fortnite will see its biggest peak during the new season launch and during live events. But a full week after the season came out, more and more people were returning to the game to check out this new sprite system. And I need to talk about the sprite system because Epic actually cooked with this one. So we know Epic has been experimenting with new features every season to try to capture the attention of the audience. And last season they brought us rivalries, but to be honest, rivalries kind of fell flat. No one really cared about how many rival wins you had, and a lot of the times when you got a rival, it was a bot player. It wasn't even a real person that you were hunting down. This devalued the entire experience and made people stop caring very quickly. So the main feature of last season was an afterthought for most players. However, this season, everyone cares about the sprites. So much so that there are black markets where people are selling sprites for real money, and a whole trading ecosystem that has created another black market where people are in a frenzy trying to trade for the sprites they don't have. Of course, some people are out there getting scammed, and there's always going to be bad actors in situations like this, but the fact that people care that much is a fantastic sign for the game. After trying all kinds of new features for the past few seasons, like surfing onto the map, driving the battle bus, and rivalries, they finally have a feature that the players love. And it shows that Fortnite is adapting. They noticed a lot of people were very into the brain rot genre and games that have exploded in popularity over the last couple of years with Roblox and within Fortnite. And they took a page out of that and added their own collection system that works seamlessly in Battle Royale, without it being obnoxious like some of the brain rot games out there. What they've done with the sprites is genius because the Battle Royale concept has been done over and over again, and it's very repetitive. But Fortnite figured out a way to add this feature, and it completely flips the entire genre on its head. It somehow adds an extraction shooter into Fortnite Battle Royale with the collection system that has become very popular with some of the brain rot games out there. Instead of just going in, eliminating some players, and being the last team standing, you're now hunting down different rarities of these sprites, and there are some extremely rare ones that create huge pop-off moments and high emotion and investment from the players.
Galaxy! Oh my Galaxy! Oh my god!
Whether you get it out of a chest or you spot an enemy player that has a rare sprite that you don't have, it makes you lock into the game and actually care about what's happening. There are some real stakes every single time you play a game of Battle Royale. Those stakes used to exist back in the day because people did not have many wins, and winning a game on its own was enough to create that excitement. But after 8 years, that is no longer the case. And this game loop that they added seamlessly into Battle Royale has completely changed everything. Another thing Ted Timmons promised us was a focus on the storyline and live events in Fortnite. And with the end of season event for Chapter 7 Season 2, we saw them deliver on that promise. Now, while the player counts peaked just around 5 to 6 million players for this live event, which isn't a huge, game-breaking live event player count, the commentary around this live event went crazy. Everybody who attended it absolutely loved it. And now the storyline is kicked into gear where the bad guys actually won. And when the good guys try to get their revenge, there's going to be a lot more players tuning in and attending the events. The issue that Fortnite had was they had a few live events that kind of fell flat over the last couple of years, and people felt like they could afford to miss a Fortnite live event. Back in the day in Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, you did not ever want to miss a Fortnite event. It was kind of a monumental moment. People were talking about it everywhere across social media and different platforms. But now the event aura is kind of lost. But with the most recent one, Fortnite is building the storyline and the event back up. So if they keep delivering live events and storyline updates that keep people engaged, people will not want to miss it, and the investment will be at an all-time high, and we might see even more player count records be broken in the future events for the rest of this chapter and going into Chapter 8. But not only that, they are still listening very closely to community feedback, adjusting drop rates of the sprites and even vaulting weapons in competitive or entirely, like the Chaos Reloader shotgun, which a lot of competitive players were not happy about staying in this season. And it didn't last long before the shotgun was gone. The communication from the Epic developers on social media is also at an all-time high, and it can only be compared to the communication that we got back in Chapter 1 when this game first came out. Now, I will say it's not all fantastic news. There are still some issues that need to be ironed out. First, I want to touch on the matchmaking. This season, it seems like the matchmaking is a little bit more strict. I'm having longer queues before I get into a match and waiting up to 3 minutes just to play a regular casual game. However, even after waiting 3 minutes, I'm still encountering a decent amount of AI and bots in my match, and the rest of the real players are extremely sweaty. As a sweaty player myself, I'm not really complaining about the fact that I'm going against other good players, but having to wait 3 minutes to play a match that is still filled with AI bots is not the move. It's very jarring when you're playing a game and you're either running into an AI bot or someone who's actually playing like the World Cup is on the line. There's very little in between, and the whiplash is kind of intense. And because of these longer queues, some streamers that are returning to the game are experiencing new levels of stream sniping. A huge streamer named Jinxie has made a lot of Fortnite content recently and seems to have taken an interest in the game, but every single time he streams it with Lacey and Ron or Los Pollos, they cannot play a regular match without getting stream sniped extremely hard. Now, this has been a problem for a very long time, but it has been made a little bit worse with the current matchmaking this season. On top of that, there was a situation with Nick A30 where a lot of the community was turning on him because he showed people how he stole a rare sprite from someone who had one in the pregame lobby and he hunted them down, and people started comparing this to when he reported people for stream sniping. The reality is that these are two different situations. A player finding someone in the pregame lobby that has a rare sprite and hunting them down is not the same thing as someone pulling up a stream and tracking down a streamer to try to eliminate them for their sprite. I could go on and on about this situation and topic, but at the end of the day, it really boils down to people love to hate on Nick A30. Whether they think his family-friendly personality is cringe or they just don't like streamers in general, there's nothing I can say that will change these people's minds. But I personally think that the hate that Nick A30 has been getting is not proportional and is over-exaggerated. People just love to jump on a hate bandwagon, and that's exactly what's happening here. However, despite some of these issues, I have been playing squads with Zemi, Legion, and Courage over the past week, and I streamed for a full week straight for the first time in a long time. The vibes are extremely high, and I'm getting that nostalgic OG squad vibes. On top of that, we're seeing Fortnite tap into the community more than ever, like this new Design a Sprite contest. It kind of reminds me of the Boogie Down contest where players can submit their own dance, and eventually one of them got added to the game, including Orange Justice, which got added a little bit after the fact. But now people can design their own sprite, and 3 winners will have their work be featured in the game. Fortnite hasn't really done stuff like this in a very long time, so seeing them bring this back is amazing. And we even have OG creators like McCreamy and Ninja making a return to Fortnite content this season. So in conclusion, Chapter 7 Season 3 has marked the beginning of the comeback of Fortnite. We see it in the numbers, with player counts bouncing up and viewership and interest around the game increasing. We also see the community actually be very invested in this season and the new features that Fortnite added. However, it is too soon to start celebrating. Fortnite needs to keep this momentum going for the rest of the year. We need at least 2 more solid seasons to follow up this season to rebuild to where Fortnite was a couple of years ago. But one thing I can say for sure is the bleeding has stopped, and Fortnite is no longer dying.